Thank you. Okay, hi everybody. I'm Eric Dorland. I am the, among other things, the automake maintainer. The level's okay? All right. And I'm going to talk, maybe not. Is that better? Is mine muted? No. No, it's green. All right. Right, so I'm the automake maintainer, among other things. And today I'm going to talk about removing obsolete packages. This is meant to be a BOF. I only have 16 slides. So I'm going to talk about my experiences in removing old versions of automake. And please feel free to interrupt with questions or criticisms or comments as we go. But hopefully a bit of discussion about how to do this better in the future, or maybe not better. We'll see. So just to set the context a little bit. Automake in Debian. I started maintaining it a really long time ago. It's making me feel old. 2002. This was around the time that Automake 1.6 came out, I think. So one of the problems Automake has is that new releases of it are usually have incompatibilities with aren't backwards compatible completely. There's various reasons why this is. It provides a very weird interface because you're basically embedding things inside of make files, and it's hard to control the API of a make file. Back in the day, there was, for a very long time, there was Automake 1.4, and that just sort of worked. And then Automake 1.5 was introduced, Debian upgraded to Automake 1.5, and lots of packages broke. So what ended up happening is that Automake 1.5 got moved into its own package, and Automake 1.4 was the Automake package. Nowadays, the older versions get moved into their own packages, and generally the currently released version, or the most up-to-date version, is the Automake package. This has some downsides because it's not necessarily fully backwards compatible, but this is usually what people want. They want the latest version of Automake, and they don't have to install a new package anytime a new version of Automake comes out. All of the Automake packages provide an alternative so that you can have your user bin Automake be exactly which Automake you want it to be. The priority of that alternative usually means that the latest version of Automake is the one automatically selected, but of course you can override that. And just a little note here that depending on Automake directly is like a little risky because, again, if you have fancy Automake files, new versions of Automake might break you, potentially. But anyway, this is not the Automake BOF. This is just a little context about why Automake is what it is in Debian. So there's problems with this. Because of these backwards compatibility issues, as I said, we're packaging all the versions of Automake. Each new version is getting a new package, basically. And we've gone through a lot of Automake packages over the years. I didn't count them up, but it looks like almost getting close to 10, I guess, which is a lot of packages to have to deal with. And so people will depend on these individual packages for whatever reason. And then getting them out of the system when they become old is troublesome. As of the Wheezy release, we had 4 different Automakes in the Wheezy release. So we had the old, as you can see, 1.4, 1.9, 1.10, and 1.11. In SID, at one point, we were going to have 5 different versions of Automake, which is a lot of versions of Automake. And you can also see that the 1.4 version was last released in 2002 when I started maintaining this stuff. So it's really old. And no one should be using it, and no one should have been using it for the last 10 years. But we sort of kept it around because people were like, oh, maybe there's old software that, still depends on Automake 1.4. Yeah. Not great. So this is crazy, right? It's too many versions of automake. No one really wants them. So I started out on this mission to bring us down to hopefully 1 or 2 versions of automake for the next release. And so I've been doing this over the last year. And I was making these slides, and I was thinking about, this sort of had these weird parallels with some things I'd read about. So now I present you the 5 stages of removing an obsolete package from Debian. The first stage is denial. All right? So if I send mail to Debian Devel asking everyone to very nicely move off of these old versions of automake, they'll just do it, right? I mean, does everyone agree that that's what will happen? Yeah, so that's what I started out by doing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the tools and stuff that I went through this process. So this is sort of technical and sort of procedural. If you've got questions about either side, just shoot up your hand. So the first thing you do, or the first thing I did, is that I used grep decontrol to figure out which packages were build depending on automake. So automake basically has no actual binary dependencies. It's all build dependencies. So there were 169 packages, source packages. Okay, that's a lot, but in Debian scale, it's not that much. It should be fine, right? Then I used the ddlist tool to turn that list of packages into a list of maintainers with their packages. It's a very nice tool for just generating these emails. Then I sent out an email, Debian Devel, saying, here's my plan. I want to get rid of these old versions of automake. Here are the packages that are build depending on them. Please do your part and fix this. And I sent that mail out on May 27th, 2013. So before last DepConf, which I was not at. Stage 2, anger. So people aren't fixing these things. I'm going to have to actually do something other than send an email. All right, fine. So the next thing I did was to try to encourage people again to sort of make this move. Lynchian has this really nice facility. One of the tests is actually there's a list of obsolete packages. So if you put your package in that list, Lynchian will complain anytime anyone depends on that package to try to force maintainers that are paying attention that they shouldn't actually be depending on these packages. So that's good. And it's cheap to do. Just send a patch to Lynchian. I don't see any reason they wouldn't take it if it made sense. And then, and now I have to file bugs because people don't read Debian Devel. It's fair, I guess. So I basically just went through the list of packages I had with a simple substitution script, send out mail that was like, please stop depending on automake, blah, with a very boilerplate thing saying this is why we're getting rid of these old versions of automake. And I sent that off to BTS, which is really easy, right? Because BTS is just email. So you can just do that. You can file a bunch of bugs that way. I should note that my initial email was a proposal for this mass bug filing as well, which you're supposed to do as part of the procedure of sending out mass bug filings. So when I did this, I had to file 117 bugs. So there's 52 packages that got fixed between me sending my initial email and the bugs. So that's good. I shouldn't be that angry, maybe. I did wait 4 months between these two events, though. So there's plenty of time. And then the other thing I used was, of course, using BTS user tags to track all these bugs very easily by adding this automake cleanup 2013 tag. I added the date because I knew this would not be the last automake cleanup that I would have to do. So I keep these separate. Always good to date your work if you think you might have to repeat it.
And you'll finish in 2013?
Yeah, no, I did not finish in 2013. I started it in 2013. I should have been automake cleanup 2015 or something if I wanted the finish date. All right, so stage 3, bargaining. Okay, so I'm past the anger stage. And now I'm like, okay, I've filed all these bugs, but not much is happening. So let me just fix this for you. I'll give you the exact fix on how to move to the newer version of automake. Here's the patch. Just apply it and upload your package. I've done all the work. I've done all the hard stuff. So before I even did this, 34 packages were fixed without supplying a patch. All right. I began the patching in late October. and of 2013. And this is the hard part. This is the part that's tough to automate. In many cases, just switching to the newer version of automake worked, and then it was easy, but that was maybe 50% of the cases. I didn't keep good statistics about how tough this was exactly, but in a lot of cases, like I had to fiddle with the build system, or I had to like a lot of build rules would like run automake itself, like instead of using auto reconf, and so there was a lot of actual like fiddling with packages, trying to get them to build, and then like just waiting to build these things, which can take a very long time to test that this worked. So this was like a lot of actual tough work. What else? Yeah, so I mean, I used, of course, pbuilder to do the builds, and then if I successfully built something with the new version of automake, I would just mail off a patch to the existing bug in the BTS and say and flip the patch tag, saying, "Here's the patch." So I thought, okay, at this point, there's patches out there for almost all these problems. There should be a wave of uploads and everything should be great. Okay, so stage 4, depression. It's not what happened. All right, I was pretty much on my own. The responsible maintainers have already fixed this problem. So we're into this sort of long tail of people who don't care, or people who are too busy to deal with their packages or do anything here. So now I have to upload NMUs. So I started this in late January, I think. And between January and April, I had to upload 63 NMUs. So it's again about maybe 50% of the remainder got fixed in the last stage. But 63 NMUs is a lot. So again, I uploaded these to delayed 10. So only 7 of these were actually like another upload came in front of them to block them out or anything like that. It was relatively easy. This part was sort of fairly mechanical. I just applied my patch that I'd already created in the BTS, and then using the deb change tool, which is really nice, you can just have it create the changelog entry for you. And then again, you use pbuilder to build the package. It's really nice if you use, this might be obvious too, but if you use something like a new PG agent, you can save yourself a lot of typing of your password while you're signing packages for upload. And then you upload it to delayed 10, and you use the NMU diff tool to update the bug. The NMU diff tool is really awesome. You basically just give it the existing package and your upload, and it will do all the magic of figuring out what the patch is, sending it to the BTS with a nice email saying, "I've uploaded this." So that's for doing NMUs, you should be using this. If you're not, you're doing it wrong, I think. So it's a bunch of these uploads, and mostly people were happy with them, but I did get one response that was like, "Why are you doing this?" So just a little redaction of so this was the quoting of the email that got sent to me. It's like, "I've prepared an NMU for a package, and I've uploaded to delayed 10, and so I got this NMUing for a wishlist bug. Question mark, question mark, question mark." There's a lot of question marks. We must have had a lot of questions. And then this is, again, part of the boilerplate that NMU diff sends out. Please feel free to tell me if I should delay it any longer. Yes, please, indefinitely. Or at least until it's important /RC. So I went out there was only one person who sent me a note like this. Many people sent me thanks and appreciation, but, and this didn't really impede me because they, in fact, uploaded a package that fixed this about 3 or 4 days later, but the reaction was kind of weird. So I don't know, does anyone have any opinion? I guess I should ask the question, does anyone have an opinion if this is wrong to NMU a wishlist bug?
It seems really situational. If you've filed a wish list bug and there's been no activity for a while, or if in general there's no activity on the package for a while, then I don't see any reason why you couldn't upload a delayed one, given that it can always be removed within 10 days. Mm-hmm. Uploading immediately for a wish list bug seems almost always a bad idea. but a delayed upload for a package that doesn't seem to be getting uploads every other day from its maintainer, I don't think it's reasonable to gripe about that.
That'd be great. There's Russ there.
I have an
Oh, was it?
opinion.
I'm sorry.
I have an opinion that it's not a wish list bug. I mean, I think that, if you're trying to get rid of old packages, then I think that it starts out as wish list, fine. But when you're down to the last few maintainers who have not uploaded their package, I think at that point you're climbing towards normal or important. And at some point the package is going away, at which point it's RC, and then NMUs are, of course, perfectly fine.
Sure, there's a bit of a catch-22 here in that, that I guess I'll talk about in the next slide, but it's hard to get FTP master to remove the package before all of the dependents have been changed. So it's actually tough to get it upgraded to RC. I mean, that's possible, that's a possible solution, but yeah.
The way to get it upgraded to RC is to talk to the release team who have the jurisdiction over what is RC or not. And we
Sure.
will, and in this situation, probably, we would at this point say, well, you're going to remove the old package. That will stop things being buildable. This is now RC. And then you have some levers to do it. That only applies to this situation, and it's not I'm not saying that's what we would have done. But,
Right.
But talk to us if you're getting into this
Sure,
kind of thing.
and I suppose I could have tried to petition to have this be a release goal, that there were less automakes in, no?
For completely different reasons, that's really complicated, and we no longer recommend it.
Now, I'm glad that you anonymised this, but I could probably guess in 3 exactly who that was.
It's possible, it's possible. Please do not speculate on who this was. There's someone back there.
I mean, what is it? You shouldn't upload for a wishlist bug straight away, and you shouldn't even upload to delayed 10 for a wishlist bug straight away. I thought that delayed was specifically introduced such that you can upload packages straight away, and they have a time deadline on them set, such that you have 10 days to respond or to remove the package from the delayed yourself. If you're a maintainer and you're not happy, you should know how to use decut remove, right?
Sure, yeah,
And now we're saying that, well, actually, you should file a bug and say that you're intending to upload it to delay 10, and then sometime later you should come back and do that, actually. I think, should we create delay 30?
right.
Or-
So my reading of the handbook about NMUs also seems to jive with this, where it's like, if this is an actual bug, the severity doesn't matter. You can basically upload an NMU to delayed 10 at any time. Is what I read. Is my interpretation of what it says there? Now, maybe other people disagree about that interpretation, but
I totally agree with that. And
Yeah.
and I'll point out that this is after you had filed the bug
yeah, this is like
and after
3
you
months
had
later.
sent the patch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the patch has been available and hasn't been applied and new versions haven't been uploaded, then uploading it to delayed 10, there is absolutely no reason to avoid doing that. This
Sure.
is absolutely, I mean, you were gracious in your delay of sending it to delayed, and then you were gracious into making it delayed 10 by that point, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so I did perhaps. I guess one of the questions too that will come up at the last slide too, but is should I have waited? Should I have done the patch? Like I basically did this in 2 stages. I did the patch, and then I waited a bunch of time, and then I did delayed 10 NMU uploads for people who didn't respond. So should I have just combined those and just immediately uploaded NMUs to delayed 10? Is there a consensus around that?
If delayed 10 isn't enough delay, we could make the number bigger, but in principle, delayed exists so that you can do this in one pass. File the bug, include the patch, upload the package. If somebody doesn't want it, they know how to delete things from delayed.
Yeah. And I mean,
The one caveat there being, is it trivially easy for people, for example, who have their packages sponsored to kill something out of delayed without going and finding a sponsor's answer within 10 days? But that aside, you could probably find someone on Debian Devel.
right.
If you're a sponsor, I think you're responsible for the NMUs you're uploading.
Other way around,
I mean, if you uploaded something to the delayed queue. Oh, I see what you're saying.
But you're right as well.
I mean, I would have, if there was a delayed 30, like I could have uploaded it there, and I would have been fine with that, and it would have gone faster, even though it was delayed 30, probably.
I mean, the person who made the upload to delayed, if somebody asks you to remove it, you have the powers to remove it, right?
Yeah.
Such that if the maintainer is non-uploading the D and then he requests you to remove it or she, then you just remove it because you uploaded it. So I don't think there is a deadlock in there.
Yeah, and I mean, if people were responsive on the bug, I didn't immediately NMU things. Like if people were like, oh yeah, I'm going to get to that in a few, like the grub maintainer had a bug in this, and he was like, oh, I've got that fixed upstream, I'm going to upload it in the next few weeks. And I was like, cool, I'll ignore it. And then I ignored it for several months, and he still hadn't uploaded it. And I did end up NMUing grub, and then he was like, whoops, and then he just went over top of that because he had completely forgotten to do this. So I mean, there's weird situations like that where everyone has good intentions and still there can be introduced delays. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Roy.
Ganef on IRC wanted to say that the FTP team does in fact remove packages when you're down to just a few packages that depend on it. They wouldn't want to remove them if there's 150 of them.
Sure.
But did want to mention that that is an option, and they are willing to do that.
That's good to hear. It didn't quite play out that way, but it's good to hear. All right, is anyone else before I go into the final stage? Okay, so the fifth stage, of course, is acceptance. In the end, to get these packages removed, I had to sort of appeal to FTP master. Like, all this work, they still had to remove that. They still had to do that final step, and it was kind of out of my hands. So eventually, automake 1.4 and 1.10 are gone. Automake 1.9 is still in the archive. There's only 3 packages that I think there's one package that still does build depend on automake 1.4, but it does not build from source either. But there are 3 that depend on 1.9 that fail to build from source, so I can't really fix them. Yeah. I ran to Paul Tagg on the flight here, so he said he would look into it. So hopefully he will. But yeah, so repeated pings on the bug hasn't really produced a removal, even though the bug's been filed for several months now. But again, I mean, FTP master's busy. This isn't like the biggest deal. I'm hoping to get this out of here before the end of before the freeze. But yeah, so these are my last slides. The open questions, which I think we kind of answered. We maybe answered the first one. What tools did I miss? What could I have done to automate this process better? I mean, in terms of, some of the slowness was introduced purely from me, just kind of working out tooling on this a few packages at a time in the evening. But what sort of tools did I miss that could have made this easier? Mike Runner.
As far as tools are concerned, I mean, the tool that Jonathan's using here, we can still use in a dry run mode, which is to ask DAC, if I remove this package, what else is affected? Because that goes right the way up the chain. The build depends, it's hard to get the recursiveness all the way up so that you've got the full chain up to a leaf package at the top end. So if you could actually run it, it's on, which service is it on now?
Whichever the developer copy of the archive is on, I can't remember.
Okay, so that's a good point. I think in this case it wouldn't actually matter because all of the things that were left were crappy leaf packages that no one cares about. So like removing them, and in fact they were all already moved. They're all already removed from testing, as far as I know, and won't be in the next release. So it's sort of moot. But yeah, no, it's a good point that if you're trying to figure out what the impact is of removing it, using that would be a good idea. But I guess I'm kind of looking more for how do we automate. Like, this took me a year. It took me over a year of like wall time, even though it certainly didn't take me a year of engineering time, but it took me a long time to get through all of this sort of procedure. Is there any tools that would make this easier? Like, it would have been really interesting if there was a way to just say, here's a list of packages, flip out the build dependency, go build them somewhere, and if they succeed, then I want to upload those as NMUs, right? Like, that would have cut down a lot of the manual labor part of this. Even though it would have made there's still the long tail of things that actually required patches, but probably like 50% of the things that were left were just me going in, replacing automake whatever with automake the newest, and building it, and then waiting around as my slow desktop machine built this thing.
That works well with build dependencies like automake and things like that, but there's still other cases where you want to get rid of obsolete packages.
Yeah.
In the early stages, when you're actually doing the identification of the packages,
Yeah.
in some cases, isn't it helpful just to pick out the ones that have no package in testing and just say, well, these are going to become, they're obviously not been looked after, they've probably got RC bugs already, and get them out early.
Yeah, maybe.
Do we consider that a package that has been waiting to go into testing for more than 6 months is by definition obsolete?
And get them like removed from the archive more, or I mean, or marked somehow as being bad?
It's not. I don't think you can blanket that. You'd have to take it on a case by case, but it's certainly a telltale clue that you should be looking at other factors on the package that might also give you a big picture of this package is to go away.
Yeah, so it gives you the opportunity at the stage where you're preparing the DD list and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
to pick out those packages and be more aggressive with them early on, and escalate right up for those packages early, and then you can get the whole cycle done much more quickly rather than waiting. So if you actually go through which packages were involved here,
Yeah.
it's a fair bet that the packages that were left at the tail were orphaned, not in testing,
Yeah.
RC buggy, or combination of all three.
Yeah.
Hi. So I'm surprised actually you haven't pronounced the term transition, because this is actually what it is, and the release team has nice tools to handle transitions.
Okay. Like what?
Like you can have a dashboard of every affected package, which will happen that in like the PTS or the new tracker, package tracker, you will have there will be a line that says, hey, this package is part of a transition, you need to do something about it. And also, I believe that now we have auto removal from testing. Then, well, yeah, we remove the old packages from testing, which means that the packages will get removed from testing until they are fixed, which is the right thing to do if you do not want the old packages to be released with the new Debian version.
So, I mean, definitely a bunch of these tail packages were removed from testing. They were all, like, the three that I mentioned are all failed to build from source. They're all removed from testing. But it's not clear to me how to connect those two things up with the actual, like, forcing the removal to happen, right? Like, how do I indicate that we shouldn't care about these packages and that it's safe now to remove automake version X? Sorry? No, I did. I absolutely did that. I filed it ages ago, and I've pinged it several times with exactly these facts. But there hasn't been a lot of motion on none of them got rectified particularly quickly, and obviously there's one that's still sort of dangling. Go ahead, Russ.
The statement in the audience was just that you should add that information to the RM bug. Couple of things. One, Ganoff says that he just killed automake 1.9, so you should upgrade the remaining bugs to
Hooray! Thanks, Ganoff.
The other one is that one of the things I think we could do better at is that the whole process of Lynchian detecting that you're depending on a package that goes away. Right now, that's I think the obsolete file, and I've not been involved in Lynchian development very much for the last couple of years, so it's possible that somebody went around and automated this already, but I think that was basically a manual file that you just add things to. It seems like this is a place where we could be using sections or something. Like if you uploaded the version of automake that you want to make go away into a different section, or use or to be more precise, use FTP overrides to move it into a different section. Lynchian has a bunch of files that it auto-generates, well, semi-auto-generates in the sense that people run scripts to fill out that data before you upload Lynchian each time. Yeah. So that it could just pull down all those files, all the list of things in whatever that section is that's designated for these packages will be going away and depending on them as a bug, which may not be the same as the section we have right now for transitional packages because those are not exactly the same problem. And then that would automate some more of that process, because then all you would have to do is tag the package somehow or submit an FTP master override bug somehow to say this package is going away, and then more of that process for the responsive maintainers would happen automatically without you having to babysit it.
Yeah.
And on a similar note, there's really no reason why we couldn't automate nagging the maintainers who depend on obsolete packages, or even mass filing the bugs for maintainers who depend on automated packages, do that completely automatically without a human having to do anything except maybe press the button that says, yeah, this looks like a good idea.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea to do these, to try to do these more automatically, the bug filing. Was there a question over here? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said, though.
So if I got it right, the idea is to introduce the concept of a deprecated package, which I would appreciate. And
The deprecated, like the concept of a deprecated package. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, actually.
like we have the old lib section, we
Yeah.
would have the deprecated section.
Yeah.
And then you upload into the deprecated section, which actually requires manual override by FTP master, but
Yeah.
and then Lynchian can automatically say you depend on a deprecated package, yay. And you can even say block uploads on that Lynchian tag.
That's true. That would have been that'd be a good thing to do, too.
Okay,
I mean,
let's implement it.
Yeah. It's a great idea. I mean, and that was one of the reasons that I liked putting in the Lynchian warning, because it would prevent new people from uploading packages that were depending on these versions of automake, which you really don't want new problems to show up as you're spending months and months fixing the old problems. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, though, Lynchian stuff and all the rest, that tends to just work with maintainers who are more or less on the ball.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you couldn't just take a big hammer based on Lunar's idea as well, and because if you filed an RC bug against automake 1.9 itself, then it would, after a week or so, disappear from testing, and all its build dependencies would also disappear from testing, and that would. Yeah, the release team might not appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends if we'd have done that as well.
But I guess, I mean, maybe the question is, like, what's the threshold for the, like, how big does the long tail have to be before we can just, like, force it, right? Like, if this breaks 10 packages and none of them appear to be important, can we just do it? Or do we have to wait?
So I think one good example that this provides, not just for automake, but for a lot of other cases, is that we should really, really hesitate before we start introducing parallel versions of anything into the archive. The default state of anything should be, here is the version for the archive, at which point you start getting fails to build from source bugs because, hey, look, you don't work with the new version. And the default state is not, I get to use the old version and comfortably rest on it. It's, I got to fix my stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit off topic. I mean, it's very relevant to automake, because I think I'm going to end up with this problem the next time there's a new revision of automake. So one of the things that I didn't mention is the automake maintainers have promised to have better versioning in the future, so that, like, actually only major versions should break backwards compatibility, maybe, hopefully. So that's promising, but yeah, how do we make sure that the new version doesn't break huge swaths of the archive before it gets uploaded? I mean, I know there's some people have access to large sort of like rebuild instances and stuff like that, which would be really useful to hook up with them, but I guess you have to ask them or figure out who those people are, or those sorts of things.
As far as the long tail is concerned, it does depend on the circumstances, but we have actually done some seriously long tails in one operation. At a BSP, we actually removed 94 packages in a single chain.
Oh, wow.
These things are possible. You don't have to think about the tail in those sort of contexts. You just look at the contents of the tail, and it was all of these kinds of packages.
Yeah.
They were all RC buggy. None of them were in testing. Most of them been waiting for testing for, on average 600 days or more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They weren't orphaned, but on that basis, they probably should have been.
Right.
But there wasn't any point orphaning them. The whole lot just got removed.
But is that but that's a transition, right?
No.
Is that a transition or a removal?
No.
No, it's just broken.
They had been broken.
So maybe my question is So was that on the release team side or the FTP master side? Which is also like, where do I submit
We
these
happen to
requests
have
to?
both teams at the BSP at the time. So.
I see. I gotcha.
Yeah, we do kind of, when we do UK BSPs, we often tend to have FTP master, release team, and Neil, who likes to OM things by default.
Okay, so getting these two teams in the same room or physical or virtual room might expedite these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay, it's
Or
good advice.
Do an obsolete sprint. It's just at some point before
Yeah.
we get too close to the release. So it's probably a bit late for it now, but
Yeah.
6 months or so before the start of the freeze, we organise a sprint and we get the relevant teams together and we go through this lot with a fine tooth comb. We just throw things out.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. I mean, yeah, just in general to
If it's 6 months or more before the start of the freeze, they've got plenty of time to put it back in if they really care about it.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. I mean, it would probably be pretty easy to figure out which packages are. Well, I guess there's a question of what's the difference between obsolete and unmaintained, and like how do we identify what those packages are without it being explicit?
It's really grey. There are all sorts of
Sure.
considerations you have to make, and we're attendees of Cambridge BSPs tend to be a little flippant about this kind of thing, and slightly trigger happy, we'll admit. But it's we don't automatically go for RM, but there's a set of telltale signs that we've picked up are indications that things are not as they should be with a package, like the popcorn is
It's heading down, yeah.
and it's got a couple of important bugs and an RC one, and maybe somebody is reporting that they are build depping on it and something's going wrong, and there hasn't been an upload in 6 months. All those things together combined say to us this is probably we're better off without it than with it. So you have to analyze the package as an entire entity, not just say, oh, this has 2 RC bugs, let's get rid of it.
Right.
And then you also have to make sure that you're behaving nicely to the maintainer of the package in question if they are still around, and not we're RMing your package by put it back in SID if you like.
Yeah. But would something like so? I mean, we've got auto removals from testing, but I guess there is no auto removal from SID.
There's no auto removal from SID, and if it gets auto removed from testing, it may get manually removed from SID later on when someone says one of my triggering factors is that this isn't in testing and hasn't been for 2 releases, but it won't happen automatically.
That seems like a long period of time.
It's an example,
right? I mean, so maybe I'm just spitballing here, but would it make sense for if something is not propagated, literally nothing has gone into, if it's been removed from testing for a year and no uploads have happened in that time, should we just remove it from SID automatically? Should we have some removal criteria from SID?
That's.
Yeah.
I'm shying away from saying yes, we should do it automatically. I think there still should be some oversight because there are corner cases, and that's what I mean about there being grey areas all over the place where you have to look at the situation right now and make a decision. And I think that's difficult to do automatically. The PTS does have a box at the top that gets bigger and bigger the more problems there are. So if you look at the package page and the box on the PTS is the first page, then clearly you've got a problem.
Sure. That might be a good metric. How many boxes of warnings out there on the PTS?
I'm sure Neil will cook up a script that can scrape the PTS and work out who's got the biggest boxes. But my second point is that we, although we're flippant about it and we are fairly trigger happy, we always make sure that we behave properly. And the maintainer gets a chance to explain why there's a problem. FTP masters can look at what's going on and make sure everything's okay. And there are very few occasions where it's happened, but there are very few occasions where we have filed an RM bug and FTP masters has gone, yeah, okay, and taken it out in the hour.
Yeah.
But it has happened in the right circumstances, and that's what I really want to emphasize.
Sure.
Rather than auto removal, I think there does need to be an automated process for the packages in SID. It just needs to be highlighting, and more than just the maintainer, but actually go into a list of people that actually thinking, this is like the WNPP report that comes up.
Right.
It's a package in need of help.
Yeah.
And it actually needs to be tagged that way. We need the automated process that scans through these things. We know what the risk criteria are, and we can be fairly general by applying them as an alert on either the bug or the package, and saying, look, there are reasonable grounds for doubt about why this package is in this particular state.
Yeah.
And if that tag then stays on forever and ever, and nobody actually manages to clear it, it's just like having it in a deprecated state. Inside the archive, or it's a flag that we need to be able to put on packages like this, and then have a tool that scrapes through the entire archive and says, right, there's 600 of these packages. What are we going to do about them?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Would it not make sense to have some kind of report, say, listing packages by days that haven't been in testing, and number of RC? I mean, come up with some rough criteria, put them in an order, put a little text box so people can put notes about the package on it. And that way we could actually deal with these things rather than waiting for someone to run into them.
Yeah.
I was a bit afraid of that.
That's a good idea, though. I think kind of lists like that would be very helpful. Okay, we've got just a couple of minutes left. Is anything else anyone wants to talk about?
I think for packages that we expect to be removed, it's also be nice if we had some way of communicating that to users of the packages. I mean, there are even cases where there's not necessarily 100 RC bugs, but just a package is dead upstream, and the maintainer has decided that sooner or later they're going to kill it off. At the moment, we have no very nice way for the maintainers, for users of that package to know that or do anything.
Enrico? Can we have a deb tag for either deprecated or obsolete or dead upstream? And then, because anyone can add that to the deb tags, it'll eventually get listed in the apt cache, and people can see it on their own systems if they're interested in the package. It's also very easy to remove.
We can if somebody maintains it. I can add that information in along the way the tags take to get into FTP master, but it's not something you want to be edited from the debtags Debian net interface where everyone can do it anonymously, which means somebody needs to kind of maintain it manually, which means it hasn't happened yet. It's been experimented with the security team in the past to say something like, we don't guarantee security support for this thing, but yeah. I would see sections for cases like this, because what you want to use this mostly for packages that other things depend on, rather than leaf packages. Because leaf packages, if it's dead upstream, there's bother rage involved in handling this. And so I would focus on bother rage to happen where it actually makes a difference in some workflow. It would be nice to tell our users about it, but it would be nice if it were the maintainer that told the user about it, and at that point the maintainer can just remove the thing from the archive. But I would still like some annotation on the packages handled by the maintainer. Actually, it could be tags in the control file, which is not implemented yet. I'm waiting for DebConf where there is an FTP master to implement it, because I have a prototype. It hasn't happened in the last 2 years.
So we got time for one more. So I think Neil had it, or
I was trying to make
yeah.
I was going to say, for users though, it would be nice if the maintainer or others in an NMU had some way to communicate you should really be using this other package instead for those leaf packages, that we don't just remove it and leave the user not with the old thing installed and not knowing what's happened.
It doesn't do it for you, but
Yeah. I think we're out of time. Thanks everybody. I really appreciate coming to this talk and talking through some of these issues. See you. I'll be at DebConf all week if you want to talk more about this stuff.